quick content warning ahead of time, but this manga does feature topics of assault and attacks on schools, so viewer discretion is advised. It's been a little over a month since I started talking about manga on this channel, and I'm really grateful for all the support you guys have shown me. It really does mean the world to me, and it motivates me to keep making videos in this vein. One manga that gets requested a lot is one that I've already read, and I've been up to date with it for the past year. And as you could probably guess from the title and the thumbnail, the manga I'm talking about is Jujutsu Kaisen. No, I'm just kidding, it's Dog Ningen. And before I go any further, I'm gonna call it Dog Fella because my friends and I use fella in place of, you know. Dog Fella has become a meme in the anime and manga community, from its title to its premise, which would make it a prime candidate to talk about in my Strange Manga I Find series. But to be honest, I think there's a lot more to Dog Fella than its initial shock value. Underneath its scratchy art style and its crude introduction, I think you have a really good series created by people who seem to be passionate about what they're doing. I think Dog Fella is unironically great, and I want to spend this video talking about some story beats, along with the things that I personally really liked. I'm sorry if you expected this to be like a craziest manga ever video, but that's just not my scene, and I just really like Dog Fella. So without further delay, let's get into it. Dog Fella is brought to us by DH Animations and Serbian Hero. It tells the story of Rex, a guy who's half dog, half fella. He was brought into this world when his human dad forced himself upon a female dog, resulting in the death of Rex's mother. Filled with anger and resentment towards his father, Rex presses onward with one goal: to assault his father. This isn't going to be easy, of course, as his father is more than aware about what he brought into the world, so he sends various goons to dispose of Rex, such as this bald dude named Neo. Quick side note, but I checked Serbian's Twitter and he's following artists like Murata of Eyeshield / One Punch Man fame, and I'm bringing it up because that influence is readily apparent throughout the series. This pose Neo does here reminds me a lot of Garo, so I'm sure it's not a coincidence. And speaking of Neo, this manga got jokes, but it also knows when to show, not tell, and this fight between Rex and Neo is a great showcase. There's a few quips at the beginning of the battle, but the authors know when to let the art speak for itself. There's a lot of fantastic spreads, not just in this chapter, but throughout the manga as a whole, and I'll be showing off some of my favorites. The fight itself ends with Rex biting off Neo's skujilis and pointing out the hypocrisy in Neo's words. Just like Rex, Neo himself didn't really have the best relation with his dad, having been groomed from a young age to become an assassin, even though he wanted to become an artist. Neo and Rex have a little heart-to-heart, and thus begins their cute friendship. It's nothing revolutionary in terms of storytelling, but I do appreciate that the manga knows when to play it straight. This is shown off in chapter 5, where, following their fight, Rex is in distress after he realizes that his fight with Neo actually caused the death of 4 people. He's dealt with being called a monster all throughout his life, and Neo's words from their last battle resonate through him. He tries saving a kid from a falling beam, and right before he even has a chance to feel good about what he did, the kid runs away in fear. This just continues to ruin Rex's psyche even more, which culminates in dark thoughts following him at home. From chapter 5, we see Rex's shell start to crack. He's very brash and vocal about doing onto his father what his father did to his mother, but in reality, it's not the case, and he's just saying that out of a blind anger. Despite how crass and brash the guy could be, it's really easy to sympathize with him. The guy has been fighting an upward battle since the day he was born. He's not the only animal fella in this series that's dealing with emotions related to the upbringing, as we have Trish, or Cat Fella. Her curse technique is using the pent-up lust in male opponents to her advantage, and attacks with a black hole that's stored in her crotch. Your introduction to her is her infiltrating a base in Virginia, which is home to the very first dinosaur that's been resurrected. And while you're still processing what the hell just happened there, you're dropped into my favorite arc in the series so far, the school attack arc. I don't know what words you can or can't say without being demonetized, even though I'm not making money off of YouTube, but I still want to be cautious. This arc finds us following a character named Kyle who attends Obama High School, and yes, that made me laugh a lot when I first read this. Kyle is a quiet kid who reads manga in class and gets bullied for it, and after enduring enough abuse, Kyle snaps and decides to take out as many students and staff as he can. When I was first reading this, I remember going uh-oh, because I wasn't sure how this manga would handle such a touchy subject, but in my opinion, it handles it really well. What easily could have been a bad joke or an attempt at black humor ended up being one of the best depictions I've ever seen in fictional media of this sort of event. Kyle gets into an altercation with Rex, who summons some dogs to help aid him in the battle. Their interactions with Kyle and Rex, both during the battle and post-battle, is some really good stuff, I'm not gonna lie. Rex is surprisingly indifferent to what Kyle's about to do to the school, but he's also not afraid to call Kyle out on his cowardly behavior. Rex goes on about the suffering that he himself endured and is not trying to be some sort of pain Olympics where Rex's suffering is more than Kyle, but he's trying to show Kyle that hey, it could always be worse, and Rex ended up being somewhat okay despite his upbringing. At the same time, Kyle is valid in complaining about the suffering he's endured, but attacking the school is not going to change anything, and before Rex can finish the fight, Trish intervenes and Kyle skedaddles, leaving Rex and Trish to fight and Kyle to wreak havoc. Just want to say real quick, the manga has some really great paneling and the action is really smooth to follow, despite its sketchy art. These two pieces that start off chapter 13 are some of my favorite in the series. I really like how, despite his rough exterior, Rex just really wants a father figure in his life. And it reminds me of Denji's desire for a mother figure, which I've already talked about, so I won't chew your ear off. The fight with Trish continues as we discover her background. She was born when 1,000 cats ran a train on a single woman, and if you don't know what that means, just look it up. This resulted in Trish's birds, who, like Rex and Neo, didn't exactly have the best life. Whereas Neo was groomed from a young age to be an assassin, Trish was approached by Rex's father in order to join his organization. We still don't know much about Rex's dad other than he wants his son dead, but I really like how he's presented throughout the series. His name is always crossed out and his face is just replaced with a scribble, and it adds this kind of cool mystery to it all. The fight with Rex and Trish is moved to Obama High School, all while the police begin to swarm the building and Kyle begins his assault. He convinces his classmates that Rex is the perpetrator, showcasing the wound inflicted on him from the previous fight, and uses the confusion to take out another bully that followed the main bully around. After he commits the deed, he stares at himself in the mirror, covered in blood. It's too late, and Kyle is far gone. He wipes off the blood, and he keeps on going. With the addition of Neo, the ensuing fight becomes much more chaotic, further allowing Kyle to raise hell. And it all comes to a halt when Rex's identity is shown to the escaping student, who stopped in their tracks during an active school attack to record Rex and make fun of it. This entire exchange causes Rex to shut down and also reminds Trish of her own childhood, where she was bullied for the same exact features that Rex was getting bullied for right now. There's a great scene where Trish grabs the phone out of the hands of one of the students and crushes it. Even though she goes back to fight Rex later, I still like this. At this point, the cops have pulled up and Kyle pins the blame on Rex, who had profiled him as an attacker from the very start. The entire school starts to berate Rex, who withdraws into his shell. The way his inner voice is depicted reminds me of the Berserker armor from Berserk, and also reminds me of Kurama from Naruto, so it's pretty cool, I like it a lot. Right when it seems like he's about to fall into the deepest pits of his despair, my boy Neo pulls him out. And Neo puts it pretty well when he says to Rex that him and Rex are two sides of the same coin, but now both of them have something that they didn't have growing up. A friend. Is it cheesy? I mean, I guess, but like it also feels genuine. Like it's hard to say what determines whether or not like something has soul, like a game or a movie or whatever, but like I really do feel that Dogfella has some soul to it. I'll get into that more later, but as of now, Neo warps out of the police's line of fire, him and Rex get back to the scuffle with Trish, and she pummels him, but it's very clear that everyone involved is just running on empty. It all comes to a screeching halt when one of the cops pulls up and downs Rex. Things look bleak until a cop drops a bombshell on everyone. I genuinely forgot about this, and when I was rereading this for the video, I was laughing my ass off when I got to this. The other officer, Officer Ukuo, is able to see past Kyle's ruse and manages to get the kids to dip, all while forcing Officer Bo, the racist one, to apologize for being so goddamn racist. So, look, okay, the topic of police officers is a touchy one to say the least, especially in fiction, but I like how this interaction is handled here. Look, I'm not gonna hold a series called Dogfella accountable to provide an in-depth analysis on police brutality and systematic prejudice, but I appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment regardless. Bo says a lot of things that I will not be repeating, and Rex gets joined by Trish, who decides against finishing him after memories of her past flash through her mind. Neo's able to skedaddle as well, escaping the cops and leaving them to deal with Kyle. So it seems like the arc is wrapping up, right? I mean, you got some cool fights, but how was this a good depiction of a school attack? Well, you see, it's the stuff that follows. Upon Kyle's arrest, the students find the corpses of their classmates littered throughout the classrooms and hallways, causing them to collapse in despair. Officer Ukuro walks among the carnage, but thankfully spots a survivor. He's wounded, but Ukuro patches him up while he talks about how he was going to make pizza with his mom that evening. For all the jokes and silly moments that get shared online, this is one scene in Dogfella that I really do think about often. The poor kid brings up how his dad's gone and he's the only thing that his mother has left, and is reduced to tears while this officer comforts him, and it's actually a really touching moment. But I guess leave it to a series about a dog fella and a bold, time-stopping guy to manage to have one of the most hauntingly realistic moments I've seen in a manga. And it doesn't even let up there, because the next chapter is Ukuro's backstory, which showcases a bright-eyed police recruit who joins the force in order to make the world a better place, only to realize the unfortunate reality of the state of the world and of the police itself. One of Ukuro's first cases is to stop a guy who's been waving a knife around threatening to attack people, and boy, did he stop him. It's a really haunting moment, especially since what follows is Ukuro trying to relay the news to the victim's parents, who could not care less. Ukuro himself was the only person at the funeral for a kid who was only 18. Ukuro's life was just beginning, and he had to put an end to a life that hasn't even started yet. It's some really heavy stuff for a series that opened with a dog guy biting off a dude's doubloons, and I think it's handled well here. The series can be goofy and funny while also having poignant moments, and it's a hard balance to achieve, but I think the guys behind this one do an excellent job, and I really gotta commend them for that. Chapter 27 is a personal favorite of mine, where they showcase Rex's childhood with little to no dialogue throughout, showing how he yearns for a family and a normal life in general. I know Chainsaw Man wasn't the first manga to do this sort of thing, but he does remind me of Denji, in a good way of course. Chapter 28 has this fantastic moment where Rex, who's been spewing on and on about how he's gonna do these terrible things to his dad, finally comes to terms with the fact that he never even wanted to in the first place, and he just wanted to be left alone. But despite this realization, his dad continues to send goons after Rex, which further fuels the fires of fatherly rage that festers within him. And I love how he vents to Neo, who just can't give him a solution, and the only thing he can do is just propose the two of them go out to eat together. It's a great moment because I think it's realistic as well, because what exactly can Neo do? He can't fix Rex's problems, and even getting rid of Rex's dad is not going to undo the years of hate and torment that Rex suffered from, so it's a really realistic solution, and one that I think is pretty great, honestly. We get a cute scene of the two of them enjoying some hot dogs, and Neo even pays back the $50 that he owes Rex from the beginning of the manga when he messed up Rex's hair right after he got a haircut. The two eat their hot dogs and talk about their lives and dreams, with Neo struggling to draw due to memories of his childhood. Rex would vent about his father, and Neo would bring up his own struggles, and it's sweet. It really is a sweet scene. They mess around for a little while before Neo heads home, and I gotta say, at this point, the art has really found its stride, with the backgrounds being especially refined, as opposed to how sketchy they were in the beginning. This door scene here reminds me of Chainsaw Guy, but thankfully Neo manages to open the door without being greeted by the Gun Devil. He's greeted by a member of Omega, which is the syndicate that Neo is a part of, and he is tasked with taking a hit on a family. Their location is an art museum, which gives Neo some time to look around before he makes a painting on the floors and walls, you know how it is. Neo ends up going through with the hit, taking out the father and son, but for the first time he actually feels guilt for what he did. He's done it countless times before, but for some reason having Rex here makes it different, and now he actually feels remorse for his actions. It culminates with Neo hammering a drawing of his own to the art installation at the museum while he thinks of Rex. Rex himself is dealing with some more hitmen, and we're back to some lighthearted fun as Rex whoops this guy named Sesu. People online like to get into debates about power scaling, but I really like how people are power scaled within the universe of Dogfella. As a New Yorker, this is also how I power scale too, so it's very realistic. The series cuts back to Trish meeting with Rex's dad, and is a really good spread here. Unironically reminds me a lot of Togashi of Hunter x Hunter fame, and it's wonderful. I really gotta commend them for this one. We get a look at Kyle in jail, who's not really having the best of times, and Ukuro trying to wrestle with his emotions, in addition to his newfound popularity due to him stopping the attack on Obama High School. Hell, even Officer Bo gets some screen time, going on another racing tangent before brawling in a restaurant. These color pages are awesome, they really look wonderful, and I'd love to see more of them. Following the fight with Sesu, it seems like the series is setting up for a new arc where Rex and Neo go on a road trip to confront Rex's dad, so that's definitely going to be some fun to witness. But before they head off to a tournament that may hold more information, the dynamic duo drops by Ron's barbershop, who is the same barber from the beginning of the series. Ron is blind, which makes him being a barber funny at first, but then you realize Rex only goes to him because Ron can't see and judge Rex for his appearance, and then you're like, ah, man. I really like this heart-to-heart that Ron has with Neo. It's a really nice moment while they wait for Rex, who is busy taking a dump. And once they're ready to roll, the boys hit the road. The repeated panels they use here reminds me a lot of Fujimoto, and it's a great thing, I am not complaining. The manga in general wears its inspiration on sleeve, and I'm all for it. It's great to be inspired by works you love while also forging your own identity, and Dogfella isn't trying to be the most groundbreaking / revolutionary manga out there, but it's still great all the while. It has a goofy and dumb premise, but it's able to roll with it and knows when to handle being funny and when to be serious. The boys pull up to Baltimore, and that's where the manga is currently at as of this recording. I tried to cover the general story of the manga so far, but of course there's much more detail to be found in the series itself, and I really do recommend you give this one a read. If you can get past the initial shock value and the sketchy art, I think you'll find a genuinely good manga with a lot of love put into it. If I had any complaints, I guess sometimes the jokes don't land on me personally, and sometimes speech bubbles can be filled with text. The manga does a great job at show, not tell, like I mentioned before, so I'd like if future chapters delved further into this and didn't have to rely on speech bubbles too much. But I really can't think of anything else that I dislike, if I'm being honest. Characters like Rex, Trish, and Kyle may start off as jokes, but there's a lot of care put into their upbringing, their backgrounds, etc. that I gotta commend them for. I don't know anything about the production history of this manga, so I can't speak on the author's behalf, but it does feel as though this may have started as a joke, but they decided along the way, hey, I want to take this seriously and make this something, that I care about. And it's great. I feel that, I really do feel that. But yeah, I guess that about covers it for this video on Dogfella, and I'm sorry if this wasn't the video you guys were expecting, but I think by now, you guys should know that I love manga, and I try to see the good in everything. In the case of Dogfella, I was already a fan to begin with, so this video was an excuse for me to talk about why I liked it so much. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and definitely support the authors if you can. You could buy their manga on Amazon, I'll link it in the description. If you guys have any requests or recommendations, please let me know. This has been Ash, and thank you guys so much for watching. Take it easy.